an international main event. We've got Diyar Nurgozhay taking on Bartosz Szewczyk, and this is a closely lined matchup. It's going down in the light heavyweight division, and we will bring up the face-off as well here between these large gentlemen, and here it is. So we've got the big boys swinging it down at 205. And both these guys have about 10 professional fights apiece, 9 professional fights, 9 professional wins for Diyar Nurgozhay. And Bartosz Szewczyk is 8-2-1. Gordo, why don't you start us off, my brother? What do you think about this fight?
All right. Yeah, this main event's definitely an interesting one. Going out there and watching both these fighters, I don't necessarily think they are the most talented fighters in all aspects, but I think they bring entertaining fights. I think there's a reason why they're the main event here, because they do go out there, typically put on, entertaining spots where there's a highlight reel knockouts at opportunities. But I think we've got a really big different class of styles. I think we have the pure striker here in Bartosz, who does have the ability to go out there and counter strike. He does have a lot of power. Like, the dude is a terrifying striker who's able to go out there and knock people's head off, but he seems to be limited to that. His volume to me is pretty inconsistent. I think he is someone who it was okay to counter strike when he feels a better striker, is willing to blitz in and put more volume out there when he has to. But someone who is going to want to keep this fight on the feet, look to take your head off, and he has had good opportunities doing so. DR looks like a guy who, although has fought lower level competition, seems to have the physicality, the well-rounded skill set to go out there and win this fight in multiple aspects. And I think he is a guy who I would consider more well-rounded of the two. He is very dominant from top position. Shall he get there? He is someone who has the ability to get people out of there if he gets on top. His wrestling is maybe not the best, but it's something he will go to sometimes. And on the feet, although he doesn't have that same counter striking as someone like Bartosz, will go forward, will throw the fight any attention. I do not necessarily like the optics of the cardio of DR. I do think he does slow down visually, although he does able to go out there and fight through it. But I do think he has a more versatile attack in the spot here, and I do think he has the potential to go out there, not only finish the fight from top position, but swing with a guy like Bartosz. And I do think that although the knockout could be there on the flip side of things for the power and the size of someone like Bartosz here, I do think that the difference in the potential grappling or paths to victory is wider than the striking here. And for that reason, I did slightly side with the Diyar Nurgozhay side here. It isn't with the utmost conviction. I have some other spots on this card here, but I do think he has more paths getting it done. I do think he goes forward and looks to win moments that way too. And although the volume of Bartosz is hit or miss, it's not really necessarily the highest pace to go out there and I think tire out a DR as much as you need to in this spot. I do think DR is able to go out there, win the moments, win the physicality, and look to potentially put the lights out of someone like Bartosz, being a solid athlete with some good physicality here. I think it's a close fight. I think both these guys have their flaws defensively. Both these guys have really powerfully offensively. And I do think those signs point towards an early finish. However, I do not have the most bullish read on this. I did pick DR to get it done.
There you have it. So quick, easy, to the point. Pierce, how do you feel about this matchup? It's going down in the light heavyweight division. Two big boys swinging it out. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I played some Bartosz Szewczyk at about like plus 140 on Sunday as well. I honestly feel like it's kind of annoying doing this on a Monday night when the lines are kind of more mature now, but I feel like Pick'em's honestly where I would cap this fight. We got someone in DR who maybe, yeah, he's got a more well-rounded game of the two, but honestly, I feel like he's very hittable on the feet. I feel like he leaves a lot of openings in the striking aspect of the game. And Bartosz, the one thing he's good at is he's athletic. He's got a good 1-2. He's straight. He's got good straight punches, and I honestly feel like that 1-2 is going to be landing at will. And if I'm betting DR, I'm honestly probably hoping he can hit takedowns here. And I guess just my thought process on why I think it's a pick 'em. I think Bartosz has good movement for light heavyweight. Obviously, you can see he's in great shape, and I feel like he can sprawl. He's got a good initial sprawl. It's just the only issue is there's not so much tape of him dealing with like chain takedowns. And I don't know. I just don't think DR is like some amazing chain wrestler where if he gets on top, I mean, he honestly has decent jujitsu for a light heavyweight. I will say I've seen him go for some interesting sub attacks. I think he was going for like a go-go plata or something in one of his fights, which is you don't see that at light heavyweight much. But I don't know. Someone in Bartosz, I think he's going to have a lot better speed. He's going to be a lot faster on the feet. And if he can keep it standing, man, I think he's going to piece this guy. And he can honestly maybe find a finish here. I was a bit surprised at the face-offs, how much bigger Bartosz was than DR. It seemed like DR either – I don't know. He didn't look like the guy I saw when I was taping his regional fights. He looks like he lost some fat though, but I don't know if he hopped off some steroids that he was on, bro. But my man Bartosz, He looks a bit messed up in the head, but I mean, he looks ready for battle. I'll tell you that much. And someone told me this. I don't know the truth to it, but I think he's right. So Emiliano Sordi, who DR beat his last fight, he's actually in his corner for DR, which is fucking hilarious. The dude you just beat is going to be cornering you. So, maybe there's some fishy business going on in UAE Warriors there, because Emiliano Sordi looked awful that fight. So I don't want to even take much from that. That was a wash Sordi that he beat. So yeah, Pick'em's fine with me, honestly, in this matchup.
Before Liam goes out here and breaks the tie, I will go out here and fully admit, when there are fights who are close, I got a soft spot for the wrestlers. I am a pure, a primary DraftKings player, so I like my wrestlers. And although I completely agree with what Pierce is saying about the striking and the feet, I do like the guys who have the opportunity to go out there and mix it throughout. So getting plus money like Pierce did it yesterday is definitely an interesting look at it. However, the way the line is now, I did side with a Kazakh who can take it down to the ground.
Local man shakes fist says in the chat, I was also expecting DR to be bigger and less staffy. I didn't see anything about a staph infection, so I don't
People
know.
were saying his chest. I didn't watch the actual weigh-ins, but they were saying his chest, it looked like he had a bad staph infection. I can't tell from that video, but maybe there's a different clip that they're talking about.
All right, guys, time to investigate. So if we scroll up, we're going to share this tab instead. If we scroll up in our navigation dock, we've got our weigh-in highlight. Bam. And all right, here we go. I was sharing the wrong tab, and I'm still somehow sharing the wrong tab. Give me a second, guys. Here we go. Now we've got what we need. I'm just going to the right part of the video so we don't get nerfed off of YouTube for taking somebody else's content. Okay, here we go. I'd like to see them zoom out a little bit. Okay, here we go. No, that was a horrible camera angle to show it. Man, they really butchered it, guys. Okay, here we go. This is the best we're going to do. You guys see what they're talking about? It's really hard to see.
No, it looked like he got a gunshot wound right there in the middle of his tits.
Yeah, he's got a little something going on. Dogfather says, yeah, he looks like he had staph, kind of healed up though. Yeah, very possible. Could be a pimple, but yeah, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. So now we could definitely get that off the screen out of respect for the viewer. But yeah, that's what they're talking about when they say less staffy. So certainly something you want to be concerned about in that regard. I will say this. I watched the Konstantin and Dritsev fight for DR, and he dominated that fight, right? He went out there, he landed a lot of huge shots. He fought for 5 rounds. He got a lot of takedowns. He made a couple mistakes in the grappling, gave up a couple bad positions, but was able to recover each time, not make any catastrophic error. So he was able to always recover. And looking at the Bartosz Szewczyk side, I watched his fight with, I'm trying to look back, Ahmed Salamov, right? And Ahmed Salamov was taking him down pretty easily in the early going and getting to good positions and kind of doing what he wanted. But that guy was no good. So he kept falling over the top and making bad decisions. And please go ahead.
He's good, bro. He's good, bro. He beat the GOAT, Robert Valentine, bro. So it's not a bad win.
All right, fair play. I will say this though. What I saw from that guy was he was not prepared for the cardiovascular commitment that he had made that evening, right? He was ready to fight for 5 minutes and he looked great. And then as the fight kept getting extended, he had a heel hook that I thought was dead to rights at one point. And I will say this guy, Bartosz, is not a quitter. If you put him in a heel hook, right, he's not just going to give up. He's going to see it out to the end and try and kick off. And he moved all around the cage and rolled like 3-4 times. So he showed a lot of courage in that fight. I don't think he's a guy who's going to be easy to get out of there. But then you look at the fight he lost via rear naked choke. It was against a way more experienced opponent, but he just shows some inexperience in the grappling. There's many instances in his tape where he gets taken down, where he gives up bad positions, and a lot of these guys haven't been able to make him pay. I could, foresee that this being the fight where the rubber kind of meets the road a little bit. This guy's both aggressive with his strikes and willing to look for subs, willing to jump on the back, willing to look for the rear naked choke. And sometimes it costs him, right? He had his opponent so bloody, he went for a rear naked choke. The guy just turned in to face him. I was like, damn, And that's where some guys break mentally, but he was able to continue just pushing, right? Keep going in the fight. And I thought that was an admirable quality. So DR is the guy who's never lost. I do think you favor him slightly in this contest, but I understand what Pierce is saying. Line should be close. Two guys that both have a set of skills. The thing I'll say about Bartosz that's impressive is his takedown defense kind of gets better as he gets a read on you, as he starts to see what you're trying to do. So the first couple of takedowns, I think they're going to be like free 99. But if he gets back up to his feet and tries to, continue to make him work, he does a better job down blocking, reading his opponent's entries on the follow-up attempts. And I did see him making those adjustments in real time. The way he beat that Russian cat who was better at grappling than he was by sticking it out in the cardio and eventually going to basic maneuvers like the go behind, like trying to just put two hooks in. You don't have to be the better grappler to get somebody tired and choke them out. It's just that simple. And especially in MMA where you could also punch them, knee them, make them tired by artificial means. In a grappling match, it takes a lot of time, right? You got to hold on. You got to do all these things. You got to make them tired from control, from top position, from smothering, from pressure. Whereas in a fight, you can just punch them like 10 times. They're going to be exhausted, right? Like it's a much easier way to chip away at the gas tank. So for me, that's kind of where I foresee some big problems is in the early going. I think DR is going to have an opportunity to just get good positions and potentially finish the fight. But if the fight gets extended, I think that's where the underdog starts to come into play here. He's a guy that builds into his fights. He starts to feel himself. And I don't think the opponents that DR has fought in the past were able to hurt him. They were able to make him work. They were able to keep him, going through these paces over the 3 rounds, over the 5 rounds. But when you look at, were they able to hurt him? Were they able to put some doubt in his mind? Most of them were not. And I think that this Bartosz guy can. Like Pierce mentioned, simple 1-2, but it's fast, it's effective. He looks like he's a roid head. It's so funny to me always watching Polish MMA. I love the Poles, right? No hate on the Poles, but they always got 16 different tattoos of different brands on themselves, and they all look roided to the absolute gills. So Bartosz never know what supplementation he's on, but he looked very good at the face-off to the point of our guy. And if his opponent has staff, that's only going to hurt your cardio, right? So I think that for DR, he might come out hot. He might come out aggressive, trying to put the fight away before things get out of hand in a cardiovascular perspective. But for his sake, he has gone 5 rounds in fairness. But great matchup. Not the best fight you've ever seen, but I'm actually interested to see how this one shakes out. Among light heavyweights, there's not a lot of prospects to get excited about. You got a 9-0 guy from Kazakhstan. Maybe there's just something in the water, but let's see, because he's got a tough task in front of him. And, he's a guy that's been on the Eagle FC scene, which is a little bit, hit and miss, right? Sometimes you see some good talent come off of there, and sometimes you see some Russian hype jobs that didn't really have the skills. So let's see how it plays.